You are listening to SPN, the Sports Podcasting Network.
Ball from Donovan to the good Piatti. Piatti's ball. Here we are, 22nd minute of overtime. Marshall, step behind the defense. Ruiz is in. Ruiz the shot. Ruiz heads it. LA are the champions. It's in a race to get back. Beckham is going to try it over the halfway line, and he's going to hit it up the net. What a goal from David Beckham!
You are listening to the MLS Postgame Show, live on SPN Radio, powered by the Sports Podcasting Network.
Wondolowski settles, drives, he scores! Wando does it again, 1-1.
Played off left side. And the blast is in far side, and it's 1-0. And the shutout streak of the Red Bulls is over, and so is the streak of games without a goal from Marco Cavallo.
Good day, good night, and welcome to the MLS Postgame Show with your host, Kevin Laramee. That's me. And what a week of games. Goal galore, comebacks, free kicks, great show of skills. Young Canadians scoring in Major League Soccer. Quite a weekend. Quite fun games. And we'll start with Friday's game. Toronto FC versus Chicago in Toronto. And it started off with Sebastian Giovinco at the 28th minute with a great goal near post. But I have to tell you, the amount of skills shown in like half a second by Giovinco mystified the goalkeeper. Baba. So what was interesting to me, the way that Sebastian Giovinco hit that free kick, the first goal he did, not the free kick, but the first one. If you look at it carefully and in slow motion, before he hits it, he opens up his hips like he's gonna go far post, like we've seen him many, many times with the curler, and the goalkeeper is getting ready to jump on his left to stop that, but then he hits it near post, and he's caught flat-footed, the goalkeeper, and Giovinco scores. It's all about that dummy open up of the hips. It like took a second to do. Not even. It's like just a little movement, but boom. And it mystified. I loved that show of skills by Giovinco. So if you have a chance, take a look at Toronto's first goal against Chicago by Giovinco, assisted by Victor Vasquez, by the way, who's settling in pretty well. And it seems like one of the most dangerous asset that Toronto had before this game, before the Giovinco rebirth or his 2017 form starting, which happened. Zavaleta off of aerial ball for the second, just 4 minutes later, and it's 2-0 Toronto, which stays that way up until the 82nd minute. Free kick about 23 yards out for Toronto. Perfect to the left of the box. Giovinco steps behind, runs it, places it perfectly, top left. Nothing Baba could do. And it's 3-0 Toronto. David Akam got one for the measure late, close to extra time, and it finished 3-1 for Toronto, their first home win at BMO Field this season. So that's a positive for Toronto. We'll look at the standings later on in the show to see how they're doing now on the table. Did that win help? We'll see. Now we're moving on to an amazing game for all the right and the wrong reasons between Philadelphia and Montreal. Don't call it a comeback. Maybe. You can say it's a comeback. No winners here, but Philadelphia really did feel like losers after this game. By the words of Alessandro Bedoya himself, it does feel like a loss. Everybody's disappointed. There were three goals up, for God's sakes. and couldn't keep on putting that pressure. There was disagreement on how the game should be played on the pitch. If you listen and read the transcripts of Bedoya's post-game comments, it gives you a window of what's going on and how losing, how not getting results or having draws, but the way they unfold feels like a loss. Like this one for Philly, it adds up. It brings pressure. It brings a moment of panic that comes too quick in a game. When Piatti scored the goal before halftime, it was enough to give Montreal that spark, to give Philadelphia that doubt. And in the words of famous Iron Fist, if you, yes, I have not been sleeping a lot lately. No spoilers. Yes, I won't give you any spoilers, but it's not for everybody. Not everybody loved Iron Fist on Netflix, but I have to say I do. In the world of sports, just like in Iron Fist, when you doubt, you're dead. That's what happened with Philadelphia. That Ignacio Piatti goal brought in the doubt. And they were dead. Anthony Jackson and Mel with a brace to tie things up at the 87th minute. And Montreal comes out of Philadelphia with a loss. That's with a draw that felt like a win. And Philly with a draw that felt like a loss. Anthony Jackson Mel, 3 goals in 2 games, 3 goals in a little over 30 minutes of play in the last 2 games. Quickly becoming, well, he's the lead scorer tied with Piatti this season so far. Piatti only 1 goal away from breaking Marco Devayo's MLS Montreal Impact goal scoring record. For Anthony Jackson Mel, Action Jackson, as he has been dubbed on social media, we have to say, Anthony is using his playing minutes to make an argument that he should get more. Nothing else you could say. Right place, right time on both goals. Oyongo's cross, first of all, was magnificent. And a little header, just enough to make it go past the keeper. Far post to the left, to the right this time. Anthony Jackson Mel got the second from Montreal at the 70th minute, 69th minute. And then close to extra time. Montreal were buzzing. They were down in the shots after the first half, but it finished 12 for Philly, 11 for Montreal, 6 on target for Montreal. And a lot of those 6, about 3 of them came between the 80th and 87th minute when Anthony Jackson Mel finally got that goal off a juicy rebound from Andre Blake, which, by the way, was touted last season as one of the best goalkeeper in the league, still is. But his performance lately, last week, the Villa goal, this week, the 3 goals come back from Montreal. Andrew Blake is not performing like Andrew Blake. Maybe Andrew Blake is already looking past Major League Soccer, past Philadelphia, and looking where he's going to end up further down the road. But if you do this too quickly, you might not go anywhere just because your performance are actually going down really quickly. A very quick descent into being just a regular keeper. Andre Blake looks right now just like a Major League Soccer keeper. Nothing special, like he was looking last year at the club level and with his country, Jamaica. But for Montreal, 2 goals by Anthony Jackson Mel continues a good trend of young academy homegrown players, Anthony Jackson Mel and Balou Tabla, which Balou Tabla, as soon as he came in, once again creating chances, responsible defensively. We've seen this in this game against Philadelphia when Montreal really couldn't afford to get scored on to eventually finish off that comeback. When Balou lost the ball a few times, he was the one stripping the ball back and correcting his mistake, and that is very impressive for Balou Tabla. Being responsible defensively is one of the things that will impress the coach enough to give you more playing time and more maybe starts. And yes, we haven't seen Balou start when Piatti is 100%, and that will need to change for Montreal. You do have more offensive threats with both of them on the field. It does create some space for Piatti when Balou is on the pitch. So you want the 2 of them to start together maybe in the very near future. And Anthony Jackson Mel performing better than Mancosu, creating different type of looks, a different type of striker, a bigger presence physically, a more of a poacher. I don't want to say hold-up man because he's not necessarily a pure hold-up man, but using the space, create a forward, a striker, not just a runner or creating a run, playing on the offside line, and being there at the right time. We have seen this from Mancosu, but lately the efficiency of Mancosu is way down, and Anthony Jackson ML's best argument is his efficiency. So I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe Anthony Jackson ML starting next week at home against Vancouver could be a reward for his play of the last 2 weeks. That would not surprise me. But Mancosu starting would not surprise me either. We're getting closer and closer to the beginning of May, closer and closer to probably the announcement that Zamali is going to join Montreal earlier than later. It's that news and that rumor spread like died down over the last few weeks. But you know what happens when something is not talked about? Yeah. So I wouldn't be shocked still to see Blair and Zamali arrive sooner rather than later, around the middle of May, maybe a week earlier. Maybe May 8th is last game for Bologna. Could be a possibility. Still take a closer look and make sure you listen to Soccer Today to get more info during the next few weeks when we're getting closer to that Major League Soccer transfer window closing for a few weeks and then reopening for the summer window. Moving on from Montreal, by the way, Montreal 3-3. The 3 goals by Philadelphia. Alberg, 2 goals. It started at the 5th minute. First goal for Philadelphia. Really, after 39 minutes for the Impact, the panic button, everybody was ready to press on it, but not just press on it, to jump in, to stomp on it, basically. But then it got corrected, and that 3-goal comeback for a draw. Yeah, it's just a draw. You're still in troubles in the standing, but you maintain that higher echelon, and you're not Philly like bottom of the Eastern Conference with a huge gap in front of you just to get out of the bottom placement. So that is going to be difficult for Philadelphia to turn the season around. Hot seat for Jim Curtin, yes, but Curtin also in LA as well is feeling the warmth of his seat. So it might be a pool. What's your over under? What's the odds of Jim Curtin or Curtin Alpha losing their job? It's always unfortunate. I don't even like to say losing their job, but it's a reality in sports. It's a reality in team sports where the manager not always warranted. I give it to you. I agree. It's not always necessary. But a lot of time it's the trigger that the team chooses to do because you can't change all the players and you want to shake things up, and you can only shake things up in so many ways. And one of those ways, the most popular one, is firing the head coach. And that could be in the future for Philly and for LA. Moving on up to the second game, Saturday, Houston Dynamo versus the Quakes, the Zombie Quake Derby, or the Dominic Kinnear Derby, you can call it too. Houston got the victory at home, 2-0 against the Quakes. Yes, a Eric Kubotoris PK, masterful PK, sent the goalkeeper the wrong way, finished it in the middle, and just a great performance. And Albert Ellis off a cross corner by Eric Alexander, former Montreal Impact player. Basically, the goalkeeper just missed. He misjudged the ball, missed it in midair. It fell to Albert Ellis's foot at the far post, buries it in an empty net, and it's 2-0 Dynamo. It's 2-0 Zombie Quakes, and the Dynamo win the Zombie Quake Derby at home. The Zombie Quake expression comes from the Houston Dynamo being literally the former Earthquakes. When the Earthquakes moved in 2008 to Houston, Dominic Kinnear as the head coach of the Dynamo, they just moved the whole team. And 2 years later, San Jose got another team. And then came a sort of rivalry between the two, Houston being the team formerly known as the Earthquakes or the Zombie Quakes. And the Zombie Quakes wins the Derby on the day, 2-0 for Houston. Now, moving on to a Cascadia Derby, the first one in Portland this season. Vancouver making a trip just a little south to make an important game for Vancouver. And they look better. They look like they had their chances. But a former player of Vancouver came back to haunt them with the game-winning goal. But it started off with an amazing cracker of a shot about 20 yards out. Darlington Nagbe slots it just above David Ousted. He didn't really look the greatest on that shot, but the shot was so powerful and so high. He misjudged the direction and the trajectory of the ball. He thought it was going to go over, but the weight and the spin, well, the lack of spin, basically, the weight and the power of the shot kept in the frame. Goal for Darlington Nagbe, assisted by David Guzman. And then 20 minutes later, 22 minutes later, at the 40th minute, former Vancouver Whitecaps player Darren Maddox came back to haunt his team after a great play created by Darlington Nagbe and Diego Valeri. Darren Maddox got the ball, finished it, and was able to score an important goal. And the celebration, the little dance and celebration of Maddox at home versus his former team. And as we all know, it didn't really end. It didn't really finish in the best of terms between Maddox and the Vancouver Whitecaps. Hence, the celebration and the dance. But at the 60th minute, Freddie Montero completed a great play for a first goal for them, giving them an opportunity to finish it. And they had chances after the first goal for Vancouver at the 59th minute. They actually had chances to tie it up, but missed the net by a foot here and there, and were not able to get the equalizer. Portland held on for their first Cascadia win at home this season. 16 shots for Vancouver, 4 of them on target, 9 off target. Accuracy needs to be better, but 16 shots. They did have a lot of chances. Those shots came in late too, when they really were coming in with the energy of hopelessness, if you understand what I'm saying. They really didn't want to lose again, and they showed some fight. Missed chances, a little bit of a accuracy problem to finish, a lack of finish, to be quite honest, late in the game for Vancouver, but they did create chances. So the Vancouver fan can take some positive out of this game, but still a loss for Vancouver. Now, New England, DC, stalemate of a game, 2-2. Nothing really crazy. A classic 2-2 games between those two teams. Teams that are struggling to find an identity on the pitch. Yes, the recent acquisition of a few years ago for DC are starting to pan out this season. Lloyd Sam created Sebastian's two goal. Jared Jeffrey for DC as well created the first goal scored the first goal for DC. Lee Wen, of course, opened up 5 minutes in, assisted by Kai Kamara, Scott Colwyn, and Sean Franklin for DC, an own goal that gave New England the equalizer at the beginning of the second half. But both teams were satisfied with that point. It does not help or hinder any of those two teams, that stalemate of 2-2, and they will be happy with it. Bill Hamid, once again, it made the saves when it was time. 18 shots for New England, 6 on target, but that brings up a 9 off target. So what could have been for New England, DC 12 on the day. But that just says that New England did show some fight. Yes, there's score effect, as we like to call, even though it might be 1 goal deficit. You do try to shoot more on target once you're behind, and usually the bigger the deficit, the bigger the goal deficit that you are in, you're going to try to shoot from everywhere you can. You're going to try to get the most amount of chances possible to bury and to get equalizers. And that explains a lot of times why, even though a team might lose a game, they will have the most amount of shots. And usually, majority of those shots will be off target or blocked, but still a lot of those shots have chances. And that's why sometimes when you look at the stats and they were actually close to, if you look at look at the game first and then look at the stats do not always tell the story of the game, but score effect does influence the amount of shots in a soccer game. So 2-2 between New England and DC United. The Red Bulls versus Columbus Crew at New York Arena. Another win for the Red Bulls. It could have been 3, could have been 4. Red Bulls had some great chances. Felipe is playing very well, not necessarily getting the credit that he deserves right now and not always getting the stats as well. But the way he sets up his teammates, the way he sets up Alex Moy, the way he sets up Kleistan and other players for him, I really like that type of player, Felipe. And that's kind of a you rather have it with him. You rather have him in your team than against you. And New York are really happy to have Felipe in their team. Luis Robles actually played a great game, kept the clean sheet. It has been difficult this season for established goalkeeper. We'll get to Nick Raimondo very soon, but Luis Robles had some blunders this year, but didn't happen in this game. Shutout against a good Columbus Crew team. They were able to get the first goal at the 11th minute by Alex, assisted by Kamaya Lawrence and Sasha Kleistan. And at the 38th minute, foul in the box. And you know what? Doesn't matter if the foul is hard or just a regular foul in the box. Well, this time, Bradley Wright Phillips was literally swept by the Columbus player, like literally swept off the ball. Wasn't that hard of a tackle, and it was kind of like a 50-50 ball, but you can't win the ball going through a player off or on the box. And once you do, it's a penalty kick. And Daniel Royer buried the penalty kick. 2-0 for New York. They hold on and they win. Once again, consistency is so important in Major League Soccer to get results and be at the right place at the right time, which that means doesn't necessarily matter if you're a Supporter Shield winner or not. Once you get time to play in the playoff is how your form is. So you want to be peaking between 3 to 4 weeks out of the playoffs and carry that momentum in and go all the way. We've seen this last year with Montreal, Toronto, Seattle. Having a successful month before the playoffs, carry that momentum in. And you need to set yourself up for success a month in. So a month out of the playoff. So a month out of the playoff is when you want to peak. So right now, you're testing your team. You're making sure you're not Philly. Yes, that you're too far and it almost looks like a too big of a hole to climb out of. Yes, but you still want to get in the right place at the right time. And we'll see that happen. So right now, teams are lining up for the final sprint that will lead to the playoffs, but that's still months and months away. Before Saturday night, there was 2 undefeated teams in Major League Soccer. You had FC Dallas, you had Sporting Kansas City, and they were facing each other to make that. Maybe a draw would have kept 2 teams undefeated, but Manoa Figueroa at the 77th minute decided otherwise and got the game winner for FC Dallas. Important game for FC Dallas in the Western Conference. Yes, the table might not look like it right now, but Dallas, Kansas City might be 2 of the contenders for the Western Conference supremacy at the end of the season. And that win will be very motivating for Dallas. And we've talked about Dallas maybe focusing more on the playoff than the Supporters Shield this season, but they have been candid about their aspirations of not just being a good team, but they want to be a great team. They want to perform. They want to be the best team in Major League Soccer. They want to be the best team they can be, even if maybe best in Major League Soccer, maybe having CONCACAF Champions League ambitions. Those are strong words, but they want to be the best team in Major League Soccer, and right now, they are. Speaking of teams that are not the best in Major League Soccer, Real Salt Lake versus one of the best in the Eastern Conference, Atlanta United. Once again, impressive performance by Atlanta. 3-1, but Atlanta looked like they could score more. A lot of missed chances. Love Almiron play. It's so easy for him. It's so easy for Atlanta. Even without Jose Martinez, they're able to be dangerous, dominant, clinical. Like once when you know it's going to hurt your team, they get goals in. This time around, the ninth minute, Victor Hector Villalba, boom, scores their first goal. And then it took another 35 minutes after that, beginning of the second half, a blunder by Raimondo left Camille aside with an easy tap in, and it's 2-0. And yes, Rusnak got one back at the 7th minute, assisted by Luke Mulholland, but it was just in a question of time. And Brendan Vasquez, late in extra time, made sure this game was wrapped up for Atlanta. All 3 points wrapped up neatly with the victory on the road. Once again, Carlos Carmona, impressive. Miguel Almiron, impressive. Alec Can, the goaltender. Yeah, he got a yellow card literally late for time wasting. But he's been impressive this season. This is how you build an expansion team. Open the checkbook, get somebody that knows what he's doing, help him take a look at the Seta Martino, help him take a look at the players you want. He likes them, sign them, and you got something going. You got a project going. And Atlanta is right now living up to the hype and actually surpassing expectations. And that is a lot. That is a big, big task because the expectations were high. And Atlanta are already reaping dividends. The fan base is happy. They're having 30,000 people at games. They're performing well on the road. They're getting victories. They're getting goals. They're creating an identity. They're feared already in Major League Soccer. So yeah, they'll have defeats. It'll be still like a tough battle to make the playoffs and to have results in the playoffs. It's not going to be easy. But when you look at them play, sometimes it actually does look easy for Atlanta. Speaking of looking easy, Kyle Lauren with the brace. Another Canadian international with the brace this time around. Kyle Lauren at home against their 2015 MLS expansion companion rival, New York City FC, with their former head coach of NYCFC, now coaching Orlando. Villa got one back in the 74th minute to make it a game, but Cal Lauren's brace, one assisted by Scott Sutter and Carlos Rivas, and the other one 20 minutes later at the 51st minute, assisted by former Montreal Impact left back and fullback Donny Toya. Cal Lauren with a brace and making an argument of being the most informed and best striker in Major League Soccer in his 3rd season, being maybe the best striker right now in the entire league. Young Canadian international, Sigma FC product out of the GTA, which is the Greater Toronto area. Now, we were talking about earlier today on this show how Jim Curtin might be on the hot seat in Philadelphia, having very trouble coaching his team and getting the most out of his players. Players are just maybe not good enough, granted, but you would think that this team on paper, the players are good enough. You would think so. And Curtin Olfo, with a terrible, terrible record as a head coach in Major League Soccer, might be on the hot seat for LA. Terrible performance by the Galaxy on Sunday under the bright lights of Sunday night soccer. Clint Dempsey, Sunday afternoon soccer. Clint Dempsey with a great goal to open it up. Ashley Cole, of all people, own goal for LA. He was running and tracking back so hard against towards his own net, and once he touched it, he literally just kicked a nice goal into his own net. It was quite terrible to take a look at. Not the best performance by the former Chelsea player for the Galaxy. And Jordan Morris at the 44th minute. It was just a question of time. You can see those goals coming. LA was besieged. LA was actually in the ropes, getting rope-a-dope, getting hit in the stomach. Boom, boom, uppercut, jab, jab. And they were going to get scored on. It was just a question of time. The onslaught by Dempsey, by Jimo Smooth, Jordan Morris, and others were just too much. And LA was not able to take advantage of the one weakness in Seattle right now due to injury. their makeshift backline with 3 regular started and injured, Chad Marshall, Torres, and others. They were not able to take advantage of it. And they got blown out 3-0 at home by the defending champions. Yes, but by a makeshift defending champions with a lot of injuries. It was almost an A lineup for LA. Like Alessandrini was probably the best player for LA once again, creating the most amount of the chances. Where was Gio? What was going on? Gio is a player that, like Taylor Twellman was saying during the broadcast, disappears. He's a streaky player, but could be missing for months. 2-3 months without goals and assists and influence on games, and boom, out of nowhere, he'll score 3-4 in the 2 games. But where was he? Where's Gio? Where's the return on investment? In a salary cap league, you need to get production out of your designated player. That's why sometimes teams do not necessarily aim at the biggest names. Yes, a name is important, but work ethic, showing up, delivering, doing what Robbie Keane did is what you want out of DP, and this is what LA was built on. And now with Kurt Onofo having a record of 10-24-3, I believe, as a head coach in Major League Soccer, it's just not good enough. They're just not getting good enough result out of the players. Like, the players are not delivering. This is what's happening in LA. Last year was a blimp. It was like a transition period. You take Arena out of the mix. You take a lot of players out of the mix to truly start something new. It's just not good enough. Not just for LA, but for any team in Major League Soccer. And next year, LAFC is coming to town. Did you see the stands at StubHub? Fans here and there, nothing like it used to be just a few years ago. The Landon and Robbie Keane era is truly over in LA. And the fans are feeling it. Fans are having none of it. Maybe those fans will become LAFC fans. What about if Chicharito joins LAFC? And now the big target for the Galaxy, which was Zlatan, is out for what? Maybe a year, 6 months to a year with a terrible blown knee. Very bad damages to the ligaments, according to his club, Manchester United. So he might never play for United. He might never even come to Major League Soccer because of this now. What if it takes a year for him to recover from the injury? Then LA's plans are done. Need to turn around and find a new target. That leaves LAFC with a potential fan base and a potential great expansion team first year. Do what Atlanta did in LA. They're going to be successful. They're going to take over as the best soccer team in the city. Galaxy better watch what they're doing because competition is coming very, very soon. And the last game, Sunday night, Minnesota United at home against the Colorado Rapids. And Minnesota with his first goal in Major League Soccer. Batman himself. Holy Batman. Miguel Ibarra off a header. Minnesota United 1, Colorado Rapids 0. And then the great win for Atlanta. Sorry. I'm just used to saying great wins for Atlanta, right? It's becoming a habit to talk about wins of Atlanta United, but Minnesota United, the other United, with a win to get themselves close to playoff talk. Whatever happened to Minnesota United being the worst team in Major League Soccer? Already 8 points. They have 3 teams behind them in the standings. One of them is the one they just beat, which are terrible. Colorado Rapids last. Let's talk about the standings and let's start in the Western Conference. First in the West with 16 points after 8 games played. Portland Timbers, followed by FC Dallas, 14 points. The Dynamo, third with 13 points. Kansas City fourth with 12 points. Seattle Sounders fifth with 9 points, tied with the Earthquakes at 9 points. 1 point behind, 1 point out of the playoff for now. RSL Real Salt Lake with 8, tied with Minnesota at 8. Who would have thought that Minnesota, after 7 weeks in the regular season, would only be 1 point off of fifth place in the Western Conference? Ninth, Vancouver Whitecaps with 7 points. That would leave up to the 10th spot. LA Galaxy with 6, and dead last in the Western Conference, the Colorado Rapids with 4 points in 6 games played. Yes, teams like RSL and San Jose had played 8 games, and like Colorado, only 6. Dallas, though, only 6 games played, 2 games in hand of Portland, with a whopping 2.33 points per game average for FC Dallas. Clearly the best team in Major League Soccer right now, FC Dallas. Now, the only other team that can maybe be in the conversation of best team in Major League Soccer right now before Dallas, because of their results so far this season, and that's been great result, but because of games that were delayed because of some reason, the lack of superstar. Kaká is not playing, wasn't playing earlier, and Orlando slowly but surely establishing themselves as maybe the best club, best team in Major League Soccer right now. Orlando City SC first in the Eastern Conference with a whopping 15 points out of 6 games played for an amazing and maybe tough to sustain, but an amazing average of 2.5 points per game for Orlando. Technically the best team in Major League Soccer, but as well as 6 games played, only adding 2 more wins, which could be the case, and it would be just already a big lead, top of the East, which would be the case, by the way, for Dallas on the other side if they win both their games in hand. Columbus second with 13 points, followed by New York in third position in the East with 13. Atlanta United fourth with 11 points. Chicago Fire 11 point for fifth place, tied with Atlanta last spot in the playoff, 6. New York City FC with 10 points, now just because of differential, because of 1 goal. Toronto FC is outside of the playoff, 7th with 10 points, followed by the Revolution, 9 points in a spot. 9th position in the East, DC United with 8 points. Montreal Impact, 10 with 7 points. And dead last in the Eastern Conference, Philadelphia Union with 3 points, 4 points behind Montreal. 7 points out of the last spot of the playoff. 12 points out of the top of the East. It's getting late. It's getting really late. It's 5 to midnight for Philly, and it's time for them to win the game this season, which still hasn't happened yet. And I do believe it's the only team left in the league, yes, it is, that hasn't won in 2017. Will Jim Curtin be the coach by the end of today, tomorrow, or next week? That is the question. Would Kurt Onalfo be still the coach of the LA Galaxy by the end of the day? That's another good question that you will get your answer on Soccer Today tomorrow, 10 a.m. And until then, I'm Kevin Laramee. You can follow me on Twitter at Kev Laramee and follow Soccer Today SPN as well, the network at SportsPodNet. And you can always get the on-demand version of every show we do here on SPN on the website, sportspodcastingnetwork.com. And until then, tomorrow, 10 a.m. Once again, I am Kevin Laramee, and have a great soccer. You were listening to SPN, the Sports Podcasting Network. Visit us, sportspodcastingnetwork.com.